evening. I'm definitely late today, but sometimes things happen. So we have a professional social worker on here today. I certainly hope I didn't get his title wrong. Um, we'll be talking about 18 doesn't qualify as an adult. So let me get this little thing here. I'm kind of all over the place today. Y'all can please excuse me. All right, there. Um, Share screen. For some reason. So this is who we have today. Mr. Robert Graves, LSW. So today, me and Mr. Graves, we having a conversation in regards to 18 doesn't qualify as an adult. So without further ado, because of the time, we're going to bring Mr. Graves right on to discuss this topic. All right. Mr. Graves, how you doing today, sir?
Pretty well on yourself.
All right, I'm doing good. Um, Again, please excuse us for the time. I definitely want to thank you for doing this interview, and we're going to jump right into it. I know I sent you some questions, but actually some stuff was discussed with me at work, and we'll just go in a different direction. I think you should be able to handle that. So, um, tell me about your childhood coming up. You are a native of Philadelphia, correct?
Correct. I grew up in South Philly in what is now known as the Point Breeze area. Um, I went to Stevens Wright Elementary School. I went to St. Thomas. I went to Kappa. I went to a local dance school in the area, Point Breeze Performing Arts Center. Um, I was born in '84, so I grew up in that '90s era where I seen a lot of things that I probably shouldn't have seen growing up in South Philly. I remember there were times when folks would run up and down the street shooting, and police would pull you over off your bikes, and there were fights, and I guess what we called little gang wars back then. But I think those experiences made me who I am today, and has led me down a professional path that I am in as well.
Okay. I definitely can relate with that. I was never involved in any of the gang activity. I just wasn't that type of kid. Not to say that anybody who was, was less than I am, because that's not true. Um, so growing up in South Philly, you hit 18. What is your expectations?
I don't think I really had an expectation when I hit 18. I left home when I was 17. I got into University of the Arts on a full scholarship, and I asked my mom if I could live on campus, and she told me no. And University of the Arts is not that far from my household, but I was dealing with a number of things in my household with my family growing up where I didn't really feel safe in some ways. So, in order for me to progress and to thrive in college, I felt like I should live on campus. My mom said no. I moved out, and then a few months later, I dropped out of school. Got arrested twice, and did 3 years probation. So I got arrested twice at the age of 18, a month apart. Did 3 years
Mm,
probation following that, and once probation was over, I went back to school to get my degrees.
okay. So from that experience, you leaving out at 17, and excluding the fact of the issues that was going on at the house, how sensible of a decision would the adult Robert say that was right now?
It was stupid. It was extremely stupid and impulsive. It was rebellious. It was not well thought out. It was to meet an immediate need of my own. And I think any 18-year-old prioritizes themselves because they believe they're grown.
Right. Now, could you explain? Now I'm gonna put you on a. I'm gonna put you on a hot seat. Can you explain to the audience what it is to be legally an adult?
So in this country, 18 is a legal adult, 21 is legal to drink. Um, that's simply the answer, right? 18 is legal adult, 21 legal to drink. Once you hit 18, you are tried as an adult in a court of law. You are seen as an adult, and any decision making that you partake in.
So would it be safe to say that you're basically an adult in regards to the law at 18?
Yes. In regards to the law, you are a qualified adult. In terms of your person, you may not be an adult mentally and
Right.
emotionally.
Right. Right. Um. Now, because you've been doing social work for some time, can you explain to us how society, well, some people in society, so I'm gonna stick with society, has duped some of our teenagers into believing that they're adults at 18?
So here's the thing. We I think parents dissociate themselves from their children when they turn 18 because it relieves them of responsibility and duty. I think parents force their
Hold on,
kids.
Doc. Say that again, because I didn't even think you was gonna say that. Say it one more time.
So I think parents have dissociated themselves from their children by forcing them into adulthood at the age of 18 because it relieves them of responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
If like I have a 12-year-old son, if I was that type of parent, like many parents are, the moment my son hits 18, he's on his own.
Right.
And I think it's a practice that we have adopted and adapted to force our children to be great or to be independent without giving them the tools to be such.
Right.
So, when I left the house at 17, I probably was turning 18 in like 2 weeks when I left home. But at that point, I still needed certain things from my mom. I needed resources from my mom because there were things I did not know about the world. There were things I did not know how to do on my own. So I'm still calling my mom about how to fill out to get my social security card because I didn't have it. I'm calling my mom to help feed me because I didn't have it. There were times when I would call my mom for rent money because I didn't have it, or car fare to get to work because I didn't have it. 18 is an adult, but mentally and emotionally, I'm still a child. And we force our children into adulthood very, very early, and especially with Black kids, right? I think this is more prominent for Black kids than it is for some other races. Um, we push them out there into the world and expect them to be great, expect them to make something of themselves because our parents did it to us, and the parents that came before us did it to us. And this goes back as far as the 40s and 50s and the 60s, is that a lot of these kids were pushed out into the street. I remember a conversation I had with my mom when I was probably like 16 and I had first started having sex. And her response was, if you come home with a baby, that will be your last day in my house. And I'm just like, so at that point, naturally, I'm scared to have sex at that point or to come home with a baby. But the conversation wasn't about how to protect myself or how to prevent from having a baby or what are the responsibilities that come along with being a young father. And my mother was someone who was a young parent, and her father did the same thing to her. When she became a parent, a mother, she was pushed out the home and had to figure things out for herself. And I think when it comes to child rearing and adult rearing, or young adult rearing for that matter, we have a greater responsibility to our children until, hear me out, y'all, until they're age 25. At 25, most of us are a little bit more equipped to handle the woes of life or the things that come along with life. I think if you push a child out there too young, they run into things like, drugs, alcohol, or survival sex, or not being emotionally equipped to handle certain things, and they become impulsive. And some kids are not like that. Some kids are very well rounded and can handle themselves because their parents taught them certain things or they taught themselves certain things. But I think, I'm not even gonna say I think, I wholeheartedly believe that as parents, we should give our children until they complete college and maybe a few buffer years until they establish themselves in the workforce. When you throw your kids out there to the wolves and throw them into society, a lot of hardships come with that. A lot of hardships, with understanding how to pay your credit cards or your bills on time, understanding how to go apply for public assistance if you need it, understanding how to maintain a job and transition from one job to the next, or just certain life skills that a lot of young adults don't have between the ages of 18 to 24. When I look at the work that I do, I work primarily with youth and young adults. And that demographic spans the age range of 15 to 24. Any legal documentation that comes down from my funders, from whether it's the Department of Health or the CDC or HRSA or whatever funders I may have through my programs for employment, the age range for youth is 15 to 24. And when I worked for the Housing Authority, they went as far as 35 in some cases. So when we think about adulthood, it's more than just the legal age limit or the drinking age limit. It's a lot more that goes into adulthood that an 18-year-old is not prepared for.
So would it be safe to say that I definitely like the fact that you said that some of the parents, I would say, release their kids at 18 to nullify the responsibility of parenting. Now I haven't done social work as long as you have, but I've been in this game for a little bit, and I've have this degree in psychology, and I would definitely say that parenting doesn't stop. How old are you, Mr. Greaves?
I just turned 40 last month.
Okay, well, happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
When was the last time you called your mom for advice? If your mom is still with us.
Honestly, I might have been in. Well, my mom is a lot older than I am. My mom is 89 or 90 years old. But I think the last time I called her for advice, I may have been in my 20s, my late 20s or early 30s.
So when was the last time you called anybody for advice?
I don't, because I'm the therapist and the social worker. No, probably I probably called maybe like a month or two ago. I probably called one of my friends for some career advice or like housing market advice.
Right. So you've been there for 40 years, and at 40 years, you still had to reach out to somebody in regards to advice.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. So at 18, and it's funny because me and my daughter just had this conversation today coming up here. You have to, well, I tell all my kids when they turn 17, what do you think is going to happen at 18? So we can just get this out the way. Because when I was 18, I thought that I was going to be grown. Because I don't know if they still say this in the city, but my mom was like, well, don't even worry about it, because when you become 18, please finish the sentence, Mr. Graves.
You going to get out my house? You going to see what it's like to be grown? You going to wish you was young again?
Right. And that you shouldn't say that to your kids. Both my parents passed. I have a godmom and Ethan, a Dr. Dunmore, and I call them for advice. I'm not saying that I know everything, because I don't. I got issue going on today that I gotta, resolve after this podcast. So I don't know everything. The only way that I could see a child being 18 and it's not going to work, and I'm going to tell you why, is that if the parents gave them the money to purchase a home, get enough, somewhere to stay, have enough money to pay rent until they find a job, have a plan for them to find a job, and then, the car, the food, and this may have happened somewhere, don't get me wrong. but I haven't heard of this yet. Now, let me tell you why it won't work. Because your brain ain't even fully developed until you're 25. Now, here's the other part. According to the APA dictionary, an adult is someone that is fully mature physically and cognitively. And I just told you, Rob, that your brain ain't even fully developing until 25.
Mm-hmm.
So you might think you can know as much as Stephen, what's that guy's name? The smartest was it? Stephen Hawking. But until your brain do this, you don't qualify. It could be like right here. You don't qualify. So parents, please. I can understand like parenting is hard. You know, he said he got 12-year-old. I got 3 daughters. It's challenging. But it's only challenging when you don't try. Let me walk that back. It's challenging whether you're trying or not, but it's more challenging when you don't try. So you've been in this field for a while. So have you ever ran across an experience where, you know, you do social work? Can you explain what that is, please?
So social work is one of those fields that exists in everything and everywhere we go. I wish it existed in more spaces, but when you think of social work, that could be the person at the Department of Public Welfare. That can be the person at Diversified Department of Human Services, the Department of Child Services. That can be the person at the health clinic that talks you through your diagnosis. It covers such a wide range of things, but it's one of the helping professions that goes far beyond just one scope of work. So social workers can also become therapists. Licensed social workers just means we've studied enough and we have our license. We can practice therapy or counseling, but then you can become a licensed clinical social worker where your primary focus is clinical therapy or clinical practice, providing interventions or psychotherapy to help people progress their lives. I wish I could have a more direct answer, but social workers exist everywhere. We exist in politics. We exist in healthcare. We exist in your grocery stores. Social work is just the helping profession, the art of helping people, in my opinion. Social justice, advocacy, all those things.
So in your experience, how long you been doing this for?
Oh, probably about 12 or 13 years.
Okay. So within your 13 years, I'm going to say 13, have you ever run across a situation where you had a client that was a teen parent? They might have been 18 or younger. And you, as what you just described, the services, you had to provide services for that person. Now, don't get me wrong, because you provide services for people older than 18, but, you know, in this particular situation.
So at the time that I worked in behavioral mental health, I worked at a residential treatment facility in Pennsylvania. I did not have any young men or young women who were parents. I do have relatives who were young parents between the ages of 15 to 18. In particular, my niece was a young mother. Well, is a young mother. And when after her first pregnancy, I like set her down and did my social work thing with her. But that's just always been who I am. So like even the services, like, I mean, with my family, it's not services, but I apply those same practices to anybody in my life.
Now, would you say it's a degree of stress for a teenager trying to become an adult or trying to do adult things?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you're a teenager, your idea of what adulthood looks like is absolutely skewed. You just look at it as freedom. You have the freedom and ability to do the things that you want without consequence or reprimand from your parents. I think it's extremely stressful. I know for me, going from being a teenager to a young adult, you know, from 19 to 20 and 21, it was stressful. I've always been a little bit more mature for my age when I was younger, but I had to grow up a lot faster once I left home. I had to, and of
Right.
course, I have been arrested twice. So now I have to really be on top of things in a different manner because I don't want to go back to jail. I don't want to violate my probation. So I would definitely say even young people without those circumstances that I had, it's still extremely stressful if you don't have proper guidance.
So, can you explain to me the role of the parent? Now, before you get into that, is there a difference between the title parent and the actual function parenting?
What the title parent and the actual function of parenting? Oh, there's a very big difference. So the title parent is just a moniker from society, right? You give birth or you contribute to the production or conception of a child. At that point, you're a parent. The functioning is a lot different, right? So not every parent who parents is good at it. A lot of us have transposed our experiences from the way we were raised and treated by our parents onto our children. Now, if you have not had the ability to recognize that the psychological, emotional, or physical harm that your parents have done to you, and you are now doing that to your children, then you're going to continue to inflict harm, and that child will go on to inflict harm unless they seek help or unless they make a conscious decision to do better or be better. So, I didn't have a bad upbringing, but I think my upbringing could have been better. So, as a parent, I decided to do things differently with my child. Right. Before I even became a father, I said, this is the type of dad I'm going to be. I made a conscious decision on how I was going to be a parent. And I thought about the types of discipline. I thought about the type of goals that I wanted to set for myself at certain milestones of his life. I thought about his career path before he had a chance to think about his career path. But then also understanding that children are actual people with feelings and emotions and dreams and desires, just like we are as adults. And you have to allow them the autonomy to express that. When I was growing up, I was told children don't feel. You don't have emotion. You don't like, I think I said I was pissed off one day. You pissed. You don't know what pissed is. You can't feel that. And I'm just like, but I am upset. Like I knew it meant upset. I'm upset, but I wasn't allowed to express why I was upset because I was a child. So parenting, the functional role of parenting is meant to nurture and help this little being that you have chosen to bring into this world or chosen to raise as your own child, if you've adopted or fostered a child, to give them the best life possible. And sometimes that doesn't always mean having a bunch of money at your disposal to throw at them to meet all their needs, but giving a nurturing and loving home, providing redirection and guidance on the rights and wrongs, and not so I'm not telling nobody how to parent, but not physically disciplining. So, and the reason why I say this is because physical discipline adds to a certain amount of trauma if there's no right way to do it. But a lot of times people beat their children without the children knowing the reason why, as a form of discipline. Oh, why'd you do that? You know what? I'm gonna beat you. So now we're beating this child. We ask them why, then let them explain. We're telling them they can't cry. You cry, I'm gonna beat you some more. You're inflicting trauma on the child over and over again. So you're being a parent. You're a parent, but you're not being an effective parent. I remember the first time I ever spanked my child. I lied to you not. I went outside my car and cried. and it wasn't even like it was like it was a spanking on the butt, right? But I never wanted to be that parent. But before the spanking and after, we had two separate conversations. The first one was, do you understand what happened? What did I say to you was going to happen if you did it again? There was like this 3 strikes, you're out rule, because I had been having these multiple conversations with him over and over again about using language that he heard like in the places that he was involved in and the consequences of that. And he kept doing it and kept doing it and kept doing it. So I said, if you do it again, you're going to get a spanking. And I spanked him. And then after the spanking, we had a conversation about rights and wrongs and behaviors and how to change and fix things and all the talk. So he knew why it was happening. I gave him the opportunity to express himself. And then we had a conversation about it, right? And it never happened again. We never had to do physical discipline again because now the conversation is different. And as I grew as a parent, the conversation continues to change because I believe my child should be able to express himself. Now, sometimes he goes a little bit overboard when he's around other adults because we have this very free-flowing communication style.
Right.
So when I see other people parenting and I see them having struggles, I say, why don't you try these things? Now, I'm not telling you what you can and cannot do with your child, but if you want to solicit a different response or different type of behavior, let's try this. Now, I had some clients, a 13-year-old boy who was extremely unruly, and he had oppositional defiant disorder, and his mother was a young mother and she didn't know how to handle it. So I started telling her to do the things that I practice with my son. So, okay, you want these responses and behaviors? I want you to go to Staples. I want you to buy a dry erase board that you can mount on your refrigerator. It's a roller pad. You just stick it up there, get some markers, and I want you all to plan out his week together. Give him some power and autonomy over the decisions that are going to affect him. And from there, you let him know what the consequences are going to be. And you let him choose which ones are going to be, like, what is the appropriate punishment or consequence for if you deviate from this list. And for some kids that work, and for some kids it doesn't. But I think as parents, we have to create space for our children to express what's going on. When they leave, let's be real, our kids are only with us 8 hours a day. 8 hours in school, 8 hours after school, if depending on our work schedules, and then the other 8 hours we're sleeping. So we have 8 hours to bond and figure out everything that's going on in their world. The same way we go to work and we get stressed out and we deal with things and we get our bosses making demands and it bothers us and we have these emotional reactions. Kids have the same experiences in school. And if you don't allow them the space to unload and unpack and tell you about their day and what's bothering them, and you provide an effective solution to their problems or help them or seek out the help for them by enrolling your child in therapy or some type of counseling, then you're doing them a disservice. And we end up raising these children who become adults who can't navigate interpersonal relationships and are navigating this world through trauma.
That's right. And it's so sad because, like you said, you can have, you have that child and, you beat them and ain't saying why. And then on top of that, you tell them not to do a natural reaction, due to a feeling that they have. So now they confused, like, well, I thought that you're supposed to do this when this happened, but according to you, if I do that, it's just more of the beating is going to happen. So now you're confusing this person. And, this bad parenting, it can go two ways. Either the person can see it as bad parenting or they can see it as good parenting. And the good parenting part is the scary part because nobody is correcting the child that now has the child when they become an adult to say, well, don't beat your kid with a switch. Now I know down south, like, going in the back and getting a switch off a tree. That was just something that you just heard. But unfortunately, that's child abuse. You can't do that. And then here's another thing. People, stop listening to everything people tell you. Now, it is true. You can't beat your kid according to a law, but read the law. I can't take this phone and go crazy over my two daughters that's here right now and because they acting crazy. But I could pull their pants down. I mean, they teenagers. I ain't about to do this. But if they were small, you pull their pants down. You can just, beat them with their hand. Your hand. What I can't do is go get the broomstick and then chase you around the house with that and try to beat them with the broomstick. Now, unfortunately, these things have happened. Switching, the wooden spoon. Now,
extension cords.
Right, extension cords. And now people say, well, they was the good old days. I ain't gonna lie. A lot of those kids that did kind of get that discipline, they some of them was alright, and then some of them wasn't. It's like a flip of a coin. Are you going to really what am I trying to say? Take a chance with your child's insanity because you don't know how to parent?
Yeah.
But this is what's happening when you put them out at 18 because they don't know what to do. I'm 48, excuse me, and I still get confused in regards to some stuff that I do. Matter of fact, when I talk to people that's 18, between 18 and 25, when I talk to people in regards to their future, I just let them know. I was like, hey, I ain't trying to disrespect you, but you don't know what to do. And guess what? They agree.
Mm-hmm.
They say, you're right. I don't. I have no clue. So if your child is telling a total stranger that, then I think it's like Mr. Graves said, you just trying to buck out of the opportunity of being an adult.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Mr. Graves, can you tell us the consequences of putting this mantle on 18-year-olds as an adult? The good and bad consequences, if it's any good ones at all.
I think it comes down to the path that your child chooses, right? So if your child is 18 or 18 and they're in college, you know, you're probably providing some level of support to them. You're probably guiding them through the different processes. If that child is not a first generation college student, um, but those kids can tend to rely on their parents to an extent in some cases, and some can rely on them 100% to make sure that their needs are going to be met. And then sometimes they find that parenting that they're looking for in their peers' parents or in a faculty member or somebody who takes them in and sees something in them. Although it's circumstantial, I do believe that parents should stick by their children until they are 25 years old. Right? I had a coworker, white male. We were the same age at the time. I might have been 30 or 31, and he lived at home with his parents. He had never left home. He graduated college with a bachelor's degree and everything and never left home. And somebody asked him, like, yo, bro, like, why you live at home with your parents? He was like, they're helping me save to buy a house. They don't I'm still learning from them. And when I looked at, like, and all of us, like all the black guys just like, yo, that's weird. I'm just like, that's not. It's not, because his parents want him to be successful. If they have the space and he's not mistreating them or abusing them or being disrespectful, why not provide your child that safety net? That's good parenting, right? Because at some point, right, all of us, if our kids outlive us and we become the ages of 80, 85, where we need assistance with our living, those are the ones we got to rely on. And I would hope that after all I poured into my child to make sure that he was stable and secure as a young man and a young adult into adulthood, that he would treat me the way I treated him, right? With respect and dignity,
right?
And, all of those things. So I think when it comes down to the good and bad of it, it's circumstantial, right? It's really about, do you want your child to be a successful and thriving adult human being? Or are you okay with them figuring out for themselves and failing and making mistakes and learning the hard way? I don't want my child to learn the hard way. I'm sorry. I don't want him to have to go through nearly half the things I went through to figure out adulthood, when I can provide him the tools on financial literacy, when I can tell him about how to buy a home or how to buy a car, how to shop around for the best rates, and how to have the uncomfortable conversations with his partners, or his partner, when he gets into a relationship, right? He's turning 13 in a week. The conversation about sex is about to happen the moment he turns 13. I think I had to figure that out for myself. I had to make mistakes for myself. The conversation never happened. The conversation was, you come home with a baby, you got to go, because I'm not raising no other kids, and I'm raising you. But I look back at those parents who were that way, and then when they become grandparents, they try to fix all the mistakes they made with their children with their grandparents.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
And now your child may resent you, or, you know what? Well, since you didn't do right by me, I'm gonna dump off baby number one to you and let you do all the things that you didn't do with me.
Mm-hmm.
And it depends on, as a parent, what is the life you want to lead as an adult or an older adult when your child steps into adulthood, and how do you want to see them thriving? Do you want a child that's going to constantly call and ask you for money and ask you for support because you didn't provide them the tools to be a productive adult and figure out how to manage their money better? Or do you want a child that's going to say, like, you know what, hey mom, I got it this month, I got a couple extra dollars, let's go out to eat, let's do something fun. You did like, and I don't want that for my child, but my son is like, I'm going to go to the NBA and I'm going to buy you a new house. And I'm just like, oh, that's so sweet, but you don't have to, right? but you want your child to be a standalone person. You want your child to be able to contribute to the world, and even if it's not celebrity or not politics or not anything that's going to give them status, I would want my child to be a good person, period. I want my child to be able to thrive and be independent and be secure within himself, not questioning all the things that I did wrong to him and never allow him to express or never allow him to work through with me. So I think ultimately, good and bad parenting comes down to what type of life do you want to lead as an older adult? And how do you want your child to navigate this world? Because each situation is circumstantial. Each parent is different, and how we handle our children is different. But you have to really consider what it is that you want out of this life for both you and your child.
That's so true. And I think that you mentioned something in regards to like you ain't say exactly, but the parent should be like the guardrail. Mm-hmm. Like the mistakes that you made, your kids shouldn't make those same mistakes. I remember I was talking with a young lady, and she said that quite a few people say this. I wouldn't want to be hard on my kid if they was a teen parent, because I was. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to be a hypocrite. So let's just clear this up. First of all, you're not hit, and I ain't talking to this particular young lady, just anybody that fits this category. You're not a hypocrite. You're correcting a mistake. That's like if I said, Mr. Graves, you come over my apartment and we're gonna watch the game, whatever like that. So he say, well, hey, excuse me, I want to get a cheesesteak or whatever. So I say, sure, and I tell him how to get there. So as he turns the corner, it's a hole there, but I never told him it was a hole there. So when he turned the corner, he fall in the hole. So is it Mr. Graves' fault or is it my fault? Now, I think the average person would say it's Mr. Graves' fault because he should have watched the hole. Mm-hmm. But if I'm directing this man how to get to this store, it's my fault because I didn't say, oh yeah, when you get to the corner, watch for the hole. Mm-hmm. Now, I might have fell in the hole, but it wouldn't make no sense for me to feel like a hypocrite because I done fell in the hole. And if you done fell in the hole, now I'm going to like try to counter you and be like, it's going like you ain't going, you be like, man, I done fell in this hole. I'm hurting. Get off of me. Mm-hmm. You understand what I'm saysaying? And this is what some of the parents do. It don't matter if you had a child that when you was a teenager. I mean, hopefully, you corrected that within some type of program or through your parents or whatever like that. But do not allow your child to have a child as a teenager because you don't want to be a hypocrite. You're a parent. Unfortunately, you're already a hypocrite. Mm-hmm. I don't know Mr. Graves that well, and I don't know his son at all. But I'm sure at one point in time, that young man considered you a hypocrite because my kids do it all the time. Mm-hmm. Because they don't think it's fair what I'm saying.
Yeah. And
if you don't have parents, like I said, parenting is hard. Like I just tell my daughter today, like, if I'm telling you to do something, unless it's immoral, you have a choice.
Yeah. I've definitely had those experiences where, a kid, my kid or another child would say to me, but you did it, so why can't I do it? And then, I'll say things to them. Well, I want you to learn from my mistakes. And the reason why I don't want you to do it is because here's what the consequences are. Right. So I think for that young woman who was a teen mother and didn't want her child to be a teen parent, teach her about sex. Right. And I think that's the thing. We don't want to talk to our children about the functions of their body. How can you raise a child who is going to then go into the world and that they're going to have sex at some point, and you have not prepared them for that mentally and emotionally and physically? And I think that's the thing. We don't really consider all the other things that come along with some of the actions that our children may engage in because we haven't prepared them for them. So if I'm saying to you, hey, don't do this, we have to give them a reason why. Even as like a professional in my job, right? My supervisors, whoever, throughout my career, somebody told me no one day. I said, okay, not a problem. But can you tell me why? or if you're not going to tell me why, can you give me another example of what I should be doing? No, figure it out. So if I fail, that is now a reflection of you because you're not equipped me with the tools I needed to do my job.
That's right. That's right.
Same thing with parenting. When you don't give that child the tools, when they fail, you can't blame them. You are responsible for what that child does because of the lack of information that you gave them. So if my child, like my son, for example, he stresses me out sometimes. I had a candle in my room, and my son likes to hang out in my room, and I'm always down here at my desk. The candle was burning. The wax had melted. I never told him how to put out a candle. Now he's 12. He probably should know, right? But he was never taught. So he takes the candle and pours the wax down the drain in my tub. And it's like 2 a.m. I'm in the bathroom. I'm like, this boy always puts something in the tub and not washing it out. So I'm thinking it's like cleaner. I run the water. It doesn't go anywhere. So I'm like, touching. I'm like, this is candle wax. So instead of getting upset, when he woke up the next morning for school, I said to him, hey, did you pour the candle in the drain? He said, yeah. I said, well, why? He said, well, all the wax melted and I didn't want the wax to, he didn't know what the wax was going to do. He was like, so I was supposed to pour it out. I said, well, one, you just blow out the fire, it'll dry. And in the future, do not pour wax down a drain because that can clog it up when it gets cold. So, I could have snapped out, and probably at some point, depending on how my day was going, I may have snapped out because I realized I never taught this boy how to put out a candle. That was a teachable moment. Okay, you did something wrong. Let's explain why and what are the consequences and how much money I'll have to spend if you clog my drain up.
Right.
But yes, I think at any moment, even in adulthood, you mentioned like how sometimes we have to go to folks for advice. We don't know everything. And there are things that I do not know as a 40-year-old man that I still have to be taught, even in my career, right? I don't know every facet of social work and every diagnosis in the DSM-5 or every modality that comes along with therapy. But either you self-educate or you ask and inquire about the things that you need to learn and know about. Now, we will always hear maybe, back in the 80s and 90s, that's a dumb question. Don't ask me no dumb questions. Now you hear people saying there's no such thing as a dumb question or a stupid question because there's not.
Right.
All the answers. And our children, when they leave our homes at 18, whether we kick them out or they decide to leave on their own, they don't have all the answers. So until that child has figured it out, you are your child's first teacher from the moment they're born. They learn how to speak from you.
That's right.
So you're going to be their last teacher too when they finish schooling. And even when they get their doctorate degrees and their masters, you're still teaching them. They're going to come to you to learn things, recipes, or how to manage a relationship if they've seen you.
Say that again, Doc. Because see, not to cut you off, but I mean, I just did. I apologize.
No, you're fine.
But see, I could have, like, I'm in school right now, so I'm getting a master's degree in mental health counseling. Now, if I go forward and get a doctor's degree in counseling or psychology, that doesn't qualify me to be an expert at making spaghetti. Just because you got a doctor's degree, that don't mean that you can do everything. You can only do, like, if it was a doctor's degree and working this phone, the only thing that I'm a expert in is working this phone.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I come down to this coaster, I'm lost because I'm only an expert right here.
Mm-hmm.
See, the reason why I'm saying this is that stop listening to people that don't have no experience. I don't care how old they is. You ready to listen to Miss Willamay down the street, who, by the way, all her sons is locked up, but she giving you parenting advice. And her daughter has already had 5 kids, and she only 25. Well, yeah.
I remember having this difficult conversation with my family once about parenting and child rearing. As I said, like, my niece was a young mother. She now has 4 kids, and her mother and my mother, because they all live in the same home, are raising these kids because my niece is not in the picture. And something happened in my mother's house one day, and I'm the family mediator. So I'm the youngest out of all my siblings, but I'm the one who's more emotionally intelligent and I can handle complex situations. So I go to the house, and my sisters who are in their 50s are going at it. And I'm talking to my mom, and I'm saying to her, I said, listen, I want you to be mindful of how their actions are going to affect how these kids navigate the world. They're watching their aunts who are in their 50s fight, cuss at each other, throw things at each other. That's teaching them how to handle situations and problem solve. That's not the type of children you want to bring up in this world. So then I go on to have this conversation with my sisters now. And I say to them, I want you all to be mindful of how your actions raising us, because my sisters are old enough to be my mother. They're actually in their 60s. I think this time they were probably 58, 59, but essentially they all have 18 years or more over me. And my nephews are my age. So I'm saying to them, I want you to be mindful of how your actions have impacted the people, the young adults or the young people who have come through this house. And this is what I don't want for these kids that y'all are raising now. And we got into the conversation of trauma and how trauma is passed on. So one of my sisters has twin boys, or had twin boys. One twin died, and one twin is pretty much in the same condition as his previous brother. And I said to her, I want you to understand how their current condition or the passing of your previous son is your fault. Because when they were crying out to you, asking you for support and guidance, and telling you how much they needed to be loved by you and felt and to feel something from you, you shut them out. So now my mom gets upset. Well, who's responsible for her trauma? I said, you. Well, I didn't raise her alone. Then it's you and daddy. Y'all did this. I said, the difference is that I realized that there was something wrong with me. And when I was 18, so I decided to fix it. I had to look outside myself and figure out on my own how to be a better person, not based on how I was treated or how I was raised or how I was felt, or, so I want us to be mindful as parents is that our actions shape who our children become. If we give them a life full of trauma because we think that's what was best because that's what was done to us, and this generation ain't having it, they will tell you that you're causing me trauma, or you're causing me to have mental health issues. I need a mental health day. So, whereas though we weren't allowed to express that, yeah, these kids have the language. So as parents, we have to be mindful of how we show up in these spaces with our kids. I allow my son to speak freely, and then when he oversteps, I say, now I want you to pull it back a bit. And remember, one, who you're talking to, let's not be disrespectful, but two, you're allowed to express how you feel and saying it clearly.
Right.
I don't want him to feel suppressed or oppressed in my household, and then when he goes out into the world, he's mistreating people because he can't fully express himself because I've stunted that from him.
Well, not to cut you off, but it was definitely a pleasure. We gotta bring you back because I didn't think that this would go into that, and I think that the information that you give is very good, and we're going to do a little bit better with the marketing. So we'll probably try to shoot for something like mid-November after things. I mean, if you're able to do that, but
oh no, you're fine. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. But yeah, it definitely was a pleasure having you on. And thank you so much for accepting the invitation.
No problem. Thank you.
All right. Enjoy your evening.
You too. Bye-bye.
That was LSW. That stands for Licensed Social Worker, Mr. Robert King Graves. I remember I started doing this. I started this foundation, the Ethel Lee Zachary Foundation, and I figured that, hey, excuse me, I wasn't doing enough to, get this message across. So I would come on here and holler at people about how they suck at parents and this, that, and the third. And my educational director would be like, you ain't going to get nowhere because you ain't going to reach the people. And she was right. I wasn't going to reach the people. Nobody wants to talk to somebody or hear somebody just hollering at them. So I brought professionals on that was, qualified in this field. Now I'm also qualified in this field. I have a a master's degree in psychology, and like I just said, I also going to school for mental health counseling. Parenting is 24 hours. It's no breaks. Even when you tell your kid to get out, it's still no breaks. When you say get out at 18, still no breaks. Your kid can be 55 and they still gonna call you for something. It was the family recipe for sweet potato pie, instructions in regards to excuse me, how to purchase a home, whatever. You don't get a break in parenting. You kind of get a rest, but it ain't no break. And I'm not saying this to be harsh. I'm saying this because it's true. Now, if you don't want to listen to me, now here's somebody else. If any of my family members is watching me and they're like, well, we ain't listening to you because we older, and they're like, then you a fool. Because I'm going to tell you right now, with majority of most of my family, I know more about parenting than what you do. Because experience doesn't mean anything. Only. Because you have to know how to be a parent. You can't just do this and do it the wrong way. That's like me trying to make a cake with cement. It's going to come out wrong. I need flour, not cement. But just because I figure it's two powders and I put the one in there and I'm trying to make this cake, that's the wrong way. It's a right way to doing parenting. And then there's a wrong way to doing it. But you can't put your kids out at 18. Please stop doing that. Because even if you do, they're coming back. And they're asking you questions. It might be at 19, might be at 20, might be at 29, might be at 59. They coming back. Unfortunately, I don't have parents to like actual biological parents for me to go back to. But I have people that I trust and I can confide in. That I go and talk, hey, how you do this? Or one of my kids did this, but I'm not dumb enough to tell my kids you are an adult at 18, because you're not. It's too much responsibilities to do all that. The reason why I was late, and I'm not blaming my daughter, is because I had to pick her up, bring her here. I literally ran up the street to try to get this podcast rolling. Now, that's not her fault. That's just, it's part of the game. Now, if she was like on her way here saying like, well, I want something to eat, I can't say, well, no, because I got to do Urban Facts. I probably would have been a little later than what it was, or try to work something out like, hey, let's do Uber Eats or Grubhub and we'll have something delivered to the house. Now, here's another thing. This is why it would be a good idea if you had a good job. Now, I ain't trying to come at nobody about their job, because kids are expensive. If you marry, you got a kid, so that's 3 people in a household. According to, I think it's the census, or I think it's Bloomberg or something like that, that income is at least $65,000. It's some people that have 3 kids, 5 people in the household, and don't make nowhere near $60,000. Now they make it. It's not comfortably, but they making it. I know this family. They just brought their daughter a vehicle at 16. My daughter is trying to get a vehicle, and I can't buy no vehicle at 16 because I that just wasn't the path for me. I'm just now getting a master's degree. The people I'm talking about, they've been successful for a while. They have nice jobs. Excuse me. They make, significant amount of money, and they can do things for their family that, whatever they want to. Kids go to nice schools, whole nine. Excuse me. Now, am I saying that if they got put out at 18, that wouldn't happen? I don't know. I don't know their backstory. I just know what I'm telling you. But what I can say is that when you do put your kids out at 18, it's a higher probability for failure. Because 18-year-olds don't know what the heck they do. They don't. They don't. Not so that they don't. You can have the highest academics in the world. They don't have some 18-year-olds don't have no common sense. None whatsoever. Do that make them a bad person? No, it just makes them 18, 17, 19, 20, 21. You know these ages? Yeah, very expensive. That's what my cousin just said. But he know. Very expensive. He got a nice job. He's a real estate agent. So if you need somebody, that's his name right there, John Tabor. I just gave you a shout out. Don't be a fool. Don't be too fast to put your kids out in something that they ain't ready for. I've seen millions. I don't want to say millions. I've seen so many people fail at parenting because, for one, they got put out the house at 18. Here's the other thing. Some people getting put out the house younger than that. How about 9, 10, 11? I got my godmom. She's not my birth mom. She treat me like I'm her son, like she birthed me, and like that was my birth mom. Dawn Rudd. I call this woman for whatever. And if Dawn said, when you in this podcast, you need to come down here and do whatever, then I gotta go down there. And this ain't even my birth mom, but I respect this woman like this because she has the qualifications of a parent. Now, if I was her birth son and she put me out at 18, Dawn, you out of luck. I'm not coming down there because I don't have the respect for you like that. And then remember the trauma that Mr. Graves was talking about? You can have that and still be suffering from childhood trauma, whether you got put out at 18, you had horrible parents when you was growing up, and now you have horrible social skills. You don't know how to talk to people. You don't know how to handle simple problems. And I ain't talking about 1 + 1 either. I'm talking about real life problems like paying a bill, resolving a conflict with a family member, planning a bus schedule. Like people literally get stressed out if they got to plan a trip on SEPTA. It's called social skills, life skills. That's something that parents have to teach kids. So we're definitely going to bring Mr. Graves back. I'm so appreciative that he was able to come on the show. I love you guys. You guys are wonderful. If you want to donate to the foundation, please do, because we need the money to help with these kids. That's our Cash App. I just want you guys to be better parents. And if you're good, you can even be better. Love y'all. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.